Welcome back to the fourth and final segment of our Chinuch series with Rabbi Yankel Eckhouse, a veteran mechanech educator in the Lubavitch Yeshiva system for the last 58 years, from 1965. And I myself, Rabbi Dalfin, was a student of his and have wonderful memories. And I would like to continue now with a question. There's a lot of children's Minyanim that's become very, very popular, not only here in Crown Heights, but also in Los Angeles and Chicago and in Florida. And my own son takes care of a children's minyan with 100 children and with other helpers. What do you think about this? What's your opinion?
Generally, I think that the Seder B'Chassidim was that the parents had the children next to them. The children saw how parents davened, and there's nothing to compare when you see something live. Whether it's Chabad, Chagas, whatever place it is,
right?
Even if it's Misnagdish place or Misnagdish Minyan,
right?
The parents are the ones who set the tone. I mean, they should be the ones that you look up to see how you're supposed to daven. Children have to daven next to the parents, as far as they'll see how a parent daven. I myself, when my father took us to shul, my brother was on one side, I was on the other side, and my father would point out to me, this was Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, this is in Tana Toikif, and this is but this part, that part. And that was another part of the davening, of where the father showed the child what is davening. And I learned different things from him as far as davening. The places where the davening is very loud and warm, obviously the child has a lot to learn. He can't copy somebody that's his contemporary because he didn't get the chance to see what the Rav Shmuel Levitin once said to me. He says, what's the greatness of the previous generation? It's one generation closer to Har Sinai. That's the Maila. One generation before, you have something to learn from them, and if a child should see how the parents are davening, that obviously is superb. That's the best thing that there is. Unfortunately, there are places where the shuls are not the most proper place, the most proper davening, and there's a place where talking goes on, and it's not such a very good image for the child to see, how talking in the middle of davening, obviously, as I said, the child's going to learn from what he sees. And later on, he said, my father also was talking in the middle of davening. What's wrong with it, So in a case like that, obviously, there's no question about it. Have a minyan where the children are going to be guided by somebody who's a mechanech, or somebody who knows how to run a minyan and shows varmkeit, shows warmth in davening. Obviously, that's the answer. But generally, if you take a look at the Chassidish groups, you see that there is no such thing as a separate minyan for children.
Right. But what I did see, I saw this in Breslev of Meir Shorim, that within the shul, with all the fathers, the children at some point sit all together on benches, and they have someone who gives them, a prize or something, or a tzatzke, a candy, and they're davening b'koil ram. So you're not talking about, that's in the shul setting at a certain time. I saw that with my own eyes.
Okay, but again, that is, why does that have to be? Obviously, there's something failing or missing over there in that shul.
I don't think in the best of shul in Meir Shorim anything was failing.
So why should they do that? Why shouldn't the child? Maybe they don't have place for the people in the shul, for the children. Maybe that could be. I've been in other Chassidish places, and I've seen that the children always sit next to the father. In the square over there in Montreal, children always sitting next to the father. I grew up that way. Every father had his child next to him.
Yeah, yes.
The Trenk family, the famous Trenk family, father and the children sat together. I mean, the father was not such a,
Right.
but still, together with, that was always the Seder. That was always the Seder. So I feel, of course, you walk into a shul where unfortunately, it's not the way it's supposed to be, then of course, if the child can have a better atmosphere, why not? I mean, make the atmosphere for the child. Why should he lose out because of that? So that's my feeling as far as that goes. I mean, I don't think it's I think it's a very understandable thing. It's makes sense.
Now, what would you say has been the most rewarding thing of being a Rebbe and a teacher? And this is important because people, a lot of times, especially in the world of Chabad and Shlichus, where Shlichus is so admirable, so rewarding. Ooh, I have a chance to put up a big building and to have a lot of balabatim. What would you say would be something that you could give and leave to the young, new mechanchim, educators, that this is, in addition to what you shared before with the Rebbe's words, which I don't think there's anything more important and greater for us than that, but, just logically, what would you say is most rewarding that you've seen in your life and what you can share with people?
In my view, this is my view, Shlichus is what the Rebbe wanted, and Shlichus is, no question about it, that's one of the greatest things, bringing another Jew closer, the Eibish's children closer to him. There's nothing greater than that. It's the highest thing that a person can, highest madre you can aspire to get to. There's no question about that. But there's also something called maintenance. You have to maintain. I mean, you don't want people to fall away from Yiddishkeit. Just like you want to bring people closer to Yiddishkeit. What is the difference of what's the difference of a person bringing him closer to Yiddishkeit or making sure that this kid doesn't fall away from Yiddishkeit?
In reach, we call that in reach.
Right. What's the difference? I don't see the difference there. The difference is, truthfully speaking, that the Shliach has Mesiras Nefesh. He goes out to a place where it's a midbash mama, and he has to give up his ruchnias and his gashmias. That they don't have either one, gashmias and nor ruchnias. They give up their children also to the point, which is Mesiras Nefesh to the highest level, and they're doing that inyan of bringing the shamas closer. But think to yourself, what are you, when you take care of a child and you give him the proper chinuch, you give him a feeling for learning, you give him a feeling for Yiras Shamayim, you are doing the same thing that he's doing. Instead of bringing the kid back from when he went already out, so you have to wait for him to go out and then bring him back. This kid over here, you're bringing him up to be a Fruma Yid, a Chsidish Yid, so you're doing the same thing in a way. It's also shlichus. I think the Rebbe said this. That's also shlichus. When he came to write the Sefer HaShluchim, the Rebbe said, put the malamdim in there because they're in shlichus too. And I think that I feel that I know, I won't mention names, but there was one Rebbe in the yeshiva, very, very special Rebbe in our yeshiva, and he wanted very much to go on shlichus, and the Rebbe told him to stay here. And this was it. And he would have been a Gvaldik shliach, I think. I won't mention his name, but I'm sure you would agree with me. And he was, the Rebbe felt that this is also shlichus. And especially if you have a feeling for chinuch, Now, I have to say one very important thing, though. I didn't mention it before, that when you want to teach children, you also have to be someone who wants to learn.
Yes.
If you're not into learning, you're not going to impart any feeling of that feeling to the children if you don't have that feeling. If you're there for the job and you think that you can go like this and like that and make the child, and you don't have it inside of you, you're doing it just klapper signing, it's not going to work.
Right.
It's not going to work.
It'll end.
It's you're going to get novel tibble, and not necessarily will it catch on. It won't catch on. Kids pick up. What comes. Devar mayetzmin alev is nechnasim alev.
Right.
And so therefore, you got to be into it also. So it's also a form of shlichus. It's a form of shlichus too. I don't say that you're going to be standing, on the high madrega as the shliach, but you will. But you are a shliach, and as far as I just wanted to end up with this and say that the greatest joy you can have is when you see that you produced a child, you produced kids that have a gishmak in learning. It's my greatest joy when a kid that had one kid this year. He needed so much work, and he had a very hard head. And at the end of the year, he had this gishmak in learning. He wanted to learn. He wanted them. Now his father just called me up just now, and he wants to know which class he should go into, and the kid really he was. I mean, I don't know if it'll last. I hope it'll last, but. The changeover from this kid from the beginning of the year was nothing, and now to the point. I'm not trying to brag about myself. I'm just trying to say the joy that it gives me. That this kid I brought, it's you're not going to get it anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere.
You made people for life.
That's right.
Made people
and
for life.
I can tell.
That's shlichus.
I'm saying besides the shlichus.
Right.
The joy that you can have from it is
satisfaction.
I know kids.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rabbi Eckhouse, for this 4-part series. Seasoned mechanech, educator, 58 years, Lubavitch Yeshiva. And I want to encourage all the parents watching and the educators, grandparents. We have a gold mine here in Crown Heights. Use him. Talk to him. Take advice. He's seen everything from 1965 to now. And Hashem Shetake bench you with Arichas Yomim and good health, your wife, your family, and only Yiddish Chassidish Nachas. And ultimately we should merit to the Mashiach's coming,
the Rebbe
B'Reshenu, and we'll all see only good things, and we'll say L'chaim together. Thank you very much.
Amen.